escape.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the master plan. Right, so apologies for absence.
And Colin and Brian.
Thank you. Notes from the meeting held on the 18th of June. On a couple of the items, Joe has given us an update. So on item 4, discuss community engagement, not received anything. One for David, suggested the person have to look at the original draft plans, have sent plans, have sent you the plans, okay? Did you get the plans?
We've got them.
Yes.
I sent them all out again,
Yes,
yeah.
Okay, discuss update at skate park. We won't be discussing it tonight because it is on full council, so we're overlapping it. But we basically agreed a company and we are using...
Joe's arranging pre-advice meeting with South Cams regarding the assessments and everything, so it's all moving forward, but there's
Okay,
no
so you can, item 7 will not be discussed tonight. Apart from that, I don't think there's anything else that's jumps out at us that we can deal with, so they'll just be noted. There, you haven't missed anything, Patrick.
I didn't get the time on.
So moving on is to discuss Mill Lane Pavilion at Linton Way. We seem to be getting to that process where each time we come in back, we say we'll discuss it, and there's issues that arise from that, i.e. But I think we have now reached a time when we've got to start pushing hard on it. I know we're waiting for, or we have been waiting for information regarding public consultation and what we actually need. So sort of like 4 and 5 really go together. In as much as I think the only way of moving Linton Way forward now is to set up the task force group and we start putting things together. I don't know if you're in agreement with that, Kevin?
Yeah, I think it would be good to think about the overall approach we're going to take. So the kind of, as it were, textbook approach would be to do consultation, to write a design brief that says, here are all the things that we need, and then to have an architectural competition where you go to, you invite architects to bid, and then you work with them, you give them a design brief, they work on it. And to a certain extent, I feel like that would be the right way to go, but it can be, Patrick will know more, but I think it can be expensive because you need to, architects won't do those proposals for nothing. You want them to, you need to have some kind of payment for the competition. But on the other hand, if you sort of cut out that and sort of choose an architect on the basis of something else they've done or something worked on or whatever, we potentially miss out on getting alternative thoughts on what we can do. And maybe you say, well, it's going to be a big oblong building, we know exactly where it's going, and more or less what we want in it, and therefore we don't need to spend that much time getting alternatives. But I think it would be good to just talk about what approach we want to take.
Well, I think that's where, I'll come to you in a second, Paul. I think that's where setting up the task and finish group would be to the advisor, because then we could sit down and go through it and say, right, literally try and line all the ducks up as much as we possibly can, talking about the stuff that you just mentioned, and then bringing it back and saying, right, this is what we need to do. Let's go ahead and get that done. And then gradually start ticking them all off.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we've been talking about Linton Way now for what, about 2 years? Yeah.
Well, to be fair, we've only just got agreement from Hill that we can use the S106 money. Everything, we couldn't move forward without that. But I know what you mean.
So it for me is what I don't want to do, with the greatest amount of respect, is have a huge task and figures group because you don't get anything done.
Agreed.
You need a minimal amount of people on that task and finish. I don't know how we're going to go about setting up the task and finish group, but I had an idea in my head that it would be chair, vice chair, in there, and possibly 3 other people that can bring in certain aspects of skills. The one that I'm not including the 4th, but there will be a 4th, but that will be Brian. Because Brian, we need to have Brian on board in the task and finish because of the negotiations we need to have with South and everything else. As if Brian's happy to do it, of course.
Yeah.
So, is everyone generally in agreement with that sort of setup?
100% agree.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah? So, you're happy to do it, okay?
Yeah.
Vice chair. So we've got chair and vice chair. I need 3 other people. Put your hands up. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, Deborah's got one.
There were 4.
As well.
Right. So we have 4 people that have put their names forward. Out of them, there's elements on there that we're going to bring in that have particular skills now. I don't want to be I'm trying not to offend anyone who I'm saying it. So one of the advantages we have with Deborah is you thoroughly read the planning applications and you're really good on that side, and also you're involved in the community, heavily, which is a great benefit. We do have the same with David, who's involved with the community and brings in special skills. Ian brings in special skills and Paul brings in special skills. I think Patrick.
I hear what you're saying. Can I suggest that if you have too many people, you could choose a small group, and then that group could consult with others when there's a special issue arising, such as you mentioned my name a moment ago because of my working in the construction industry. But I don't have to be on the committee. But if you want to talk about engineering or architecture, you call me or you ask me to attend a meeting as you were saying co-opting as a business.
Especially we certainly can't do it then.
Sorry?
Did you put your name?
No, I didn't. Well,
I'm happy to step down if
No, I think it's really useful on there because you've particularly under your sort of environmental aspects as well.
Okay.
Strong bias towards that.
Well, I was thinking we can't do this in isolation. We'd have to keep touching base with full parish anyway, because you don't want the thing to have moved on and then.
We've got to keep reporting back.
Exactly. So it's more. I'm not sure how much skills you do need and how much it's more just a case of not having too big a group so that the discussions are quicker. I don't know.
Can I have my 2 pennies, please?
Go for it.
Thank you. Fully agree with everything that's been said. The key thing for me is that we get it structured in the right way to generate the maximum results in the shortest period of time with the least aggro and sweat equity. Proper workflows, key stage indicators, run it like a proper, Prince 2 Agile Scrum methodology. Workflow leads to results, tie down, result, bang, 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 everyone knows the process. And then ultimately, with the reporting to the full council as well. And it's like something I've done 1,000 times, so it's just a question of getting it structured properly with a beginning, middle and end with fixed objectives and fixed time frame. Because obviously it's a project, and a project is a temporary entity, as everyone knows.
Okay, so I think the easiest solution for this is that the people that have actually volunteered will go with that. And we'll set up on the task and finish meeting with those said people, and then we'll report back. And that good idea, Patrick, as we need people for special skills, we can bring them in.
Yeah, board advisors.
Yeah.
Just some clarification, if I may. One of the actions I took away at the last Master Review meeting was to get some notional tentative pricing for the 4 options that had already been drafted for Linton Way. Are you saying that those options aren't kind of generically understood or agreed by you lot, or?
I think that, to be honest with you, at the moment, the Parish Council has changed a little bit, and so has this. So I think at the moment they're generically not understood.
Right.
Because there's people that haven't seen the plans and
Right.
need to look at the plans and
Right.
digest the plans,
Okay.
the ones that we got,
Yeah.
see what improvements we can make in that. And this is one of the reasons why I want to go to the task and finish. We can bring that into the task and finish, look at
Yeah.
that and discuss it. David?
Well, Kieran was first.
Okay.
No, I was just going to say, they were never, they were only designed to be indicative,
Yeah.
you know, and for Alan to give rough prices, but you know, so I can't remember what the rough prices were for each of the 4 options, but
He must have had some input to actually get to that point, surely.
I think not very much. I think there were some things that had been discussed, like having a big enough room for badminton, which is, you know, and having a meeting room, and those kinds of things. But they were more alternatives. So there wasn't any kind of. But we hadn't yet got to that point of thinking, what do people need?
Okay. All right. So the design part of it is still very much in its embryonic stage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, very, very much.
And given you know, we're not using Alan, I don't think we could really use any of that for anything other than indicative purposes, because
Yeah.
you know, you couldn't use someone else's plans.
Yeah. I mean, I've got some indicative prices.
That was going to be my question. Were you able to get some? Because that would
Yeah.
still be quite useful.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, you know, it's purely for the construction side of things, and obviously because there's 4 options, with a lot of the contractors you have prelims, etc. So obviously if you go for the bigger of the 4 options, then they're on site longer and blah blah blah. But anyway, I've got a breakdown of costs which I can share with Kevin, and then you can circulate it.
So, share with Joe.
Yeah.
The important thing is everything goes through Joe.
Okay.
And so share with Joe and she will circulate it to me and the relevant people. David, have you got anything else?
No, have you got a headline figures on those 4 options?
Yeah, if you want.
Yeah, would you mind just...
Okay, so option 1. So there was 4 options for the building. There was a couple of options for the car park. We've assumed that the car park is fairly generic because either design was about the same square meterage, if you see what I mean. So all-inclusive delivered price, including car park, building, fit out. 1.1 million for option 1, option 2 1.25, option 3 1.4, option 4 1.5 million. That's just for the construction.
But that's interesting that there's not, you know, the difference in footprint between option 1 and option 5 is quite big. I think
But you've got to be careful what you're saying, because whilst it is bigger, the active components, option 1 and 2, where you've got your mechanical, your electrical, etc., options 3 and 4 don't really vary the costly items, they just increase the actual space. You're right, there is an increase in price, but it's not an exponential increase in price.
well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
It's considering the difference in footprint between the different schemes.
So you've got a bigger foundation, of course, you've got more steel, you've got more cladding. This is for a steel, actually, sorry, it's a good point actually, this is for a steel frame building which is cladded.
Yeah,
with a certain amount of pitch.
Expect, yeah.
Okay, you might want to consider a different pitch on the roof, which gives you the option then of developing the void at some point in the future. So okay, it is very indicative at this stage, but I can put it on an email for you. The option 4, if you're interested, would take about 6 months. That's the programme for that, 6 months. And then options 3, 2 and 1 respectively wouldn't be half that amount, if you see what I mean, but you would be a slightly lesser period for a smaller building, a smaller fit out, etc. Incidentally, these figures assume that there's no services present on site. So one of the things that you might want to consider is doing a site survey for all the services, what exists already, because obviously there's an existing structure on there. So instead of bringing in all new services, some of it might be there already, so it's just connecting up.
Yeah.
But we have to understand what's there already.
Yeah.
These prices don't include demolition of the existing structure.
Yeah, you better push it over.
I was going to say, well, I'll tell.
So a good wind would do that, I'm afraid.
If you say
Not
so.
asbestos.
Right, Paul.
Yeah, a lot of what I was going to say has been said already, which is good. What I was going to say, a couple of administrative points within the task and finish, not looking to speak on behalf of anybody. Obviously, if there's an opportunity to have either Joe or Claire there to make sure
That's essential, yeah.
That's essential, yeah. And it also means we can get the prompt action on the workflows, as you said, so I'm agreeing. And number two, when the workflows are structured, I would respectfully suggest at the discretion of the chair of the task and finish and yourself as chair, that the lessons learned module gets included in the project startup.
Oh, don't you worry.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, but it's an obvious point. Forgive me to make
That's
it.
what I want. That's what I want.
Because normally it's done a little bit later on, but in my, I think we should pull it right to the front.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
And I don't need to say it anymore.
Yeah. Patrick.
Kieran, you mentioned Alan's drawings, which are the ones we're talking about, which are the ones you've got the cost estimates on, and then you're also mentioning how to choose an architect, and even I feel that those drawings could be used as a way to tender for architecture with our brief in conjunction with those drawings. And as you said, a competition. I feel that for such a small project, architects wouldn't be willing to do work for nothing on that, and just getting them to tender for the work as a bid would be the best way forward.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
There is an alternative.
Sorry, yeah. I mean, the sports pavilion is a sports pavilion, isn't it? So we'll find firms that have done very, very similar projects.
Well, and I guess the question is going to be whether, this is why I think Paul's thinking about lessons learned on Mill Lane and remembering Spices.
I am, yeah, that's correct.
Working out who is, what are we appointing? Are we going to have a sort of design build package on the basis that it's basically, a pavilion, or are we going to have an architect-contractor relationship, and then, or is the architect going to be the project manager? All of those things I think we need to work out before we go out.
The other bit as well that you need is even if you've got an existing mandate that we're going to do this and this and this is the purpose, you've got to add a future-proofing caveat into that. Because if it turns out that someone wants to add capacity or do something different or something else down the line, we've got to build something that's future-proofed and is as good in 5 years' time as it is today.
Well, again, that's something if we say there may be expansion in one direction, then we can build that in.
Which is the point, yeah, exactly.
That's got
Sorry, just one thing. For an extra 150k, doesn't seem a lot, does it?
Peanuts.
Say it quickly. The company that provided these figures is prepared to provide a service which includes pre and post planning. So that's appointing an architect that they've worked with in the past that's got a track record of delivering this type of scheme, to obviously take that through to planning, and then the post-planning element, sort of the link between planning approval and actually starting on site construction drawings, doing all your surveys, your ecology, etc., your land investigation tests, which will inform the design to some extent. So basically they're prepared to sort of provide that service, and then at the end of that 150k, you're not necessarily obligated to use that company to do the actual design and build, but you'll have enough information to send out a tender document to companies of your discretion to get them, and that may include the company that's provided the indicative figures, it may not, for you to sort of assess or evaluate each of those responses on its merits, basically.
I mean, I would have expected that, to my mind, that's what an architect does, design and get as far as a tender package, and then helps the client choose the tender. But as we were saying, it doesn't necessarily need to be a classic architect.
I think architects like to draw. The other elements of that service are kind of outsourced, so it's really,
And you can get good architects and very bad ones.
Yeah.
Okay, David.
I was just going to point out these plans are nearly 4 years old now, and They were in response to various requests made at the time, and I just wonder whether we ought to go back to base and check that those requirements are still.
Okay, that's part of the task.
That's the first thing we were saying, was that we do some consultation, because we want to make sure that if there are any needs that we don't know about.
And also you have a whole new cohort of residents up there now.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of things have been raised. Is what the task and village group will focus on those, and then we can actually push them.
So just one thing to include in that is the type of floor specification. These prices are based on a sort of standard screed with a kind of a commercial LVT product, basically. But if you wanted to deem this as a sports hall, you might want some sort of sports type.
The role is in there, Patrick. No, there's actually two things that sort of spring out straight away from that. Number one is health and safety on regarding the flooring, because if we do put table tennises in there, it's got to have a certain grip and everything. And if you, not with the greatest amount of respect, if it does become used as a dance hall or something, or something was a party, again you want a specific grip.
Sure.
The other thing as well that is really important that comes into when you do looking at the costings is soundproofing it inside. Because when we did Linton Way, we found out there was a whole Mill Lane, there was a horrible echo. So I'm pretty certain those prices wouldn't include making it audible.
Yeah, I mean.
So that's another aspect of it as well. We need to be.
So that would be part of your criteria, basically. Yeah.
Because that's also very important to get that right.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if you wanted a parquet type flooring that sometimes they have in these sports hall, that's not included in these numbers.
So we've got a lot of things to discuss at the task with village group, and so I just think it's time we should start focusing it and pushing it along and developing it. So moving on from that, update on the high street, Patrick.
Oh, I'm not laughing.
Does Brian giving you anything?
One of the actions on the last minutes was feedback was requested from councillors.
I didn't think that.
I didn't see anything in writing from anybody. But maybe somebody else saw something in writing.
I thought I responded.
I saw quite a few responses from a few people.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So there were the actions being made. I couldn't remember from the dates. I hear what you're saying. So there we are. That's the report.
Thanks a lot, Patrick. Right.
What did you see Brian's email about a fund?
Yes, 200,000.
Yes. And I feel that if every parish council in the county asks for something, we might end up with 2,000 each. What would anybody like to apply for? What should we apply for it?
I think we should. I think there's elements in there that we should apply for it, and it's a case of what we should apply for. I haven't actually thought about what we should apply for, but I think that when you get something given, when you got an opportunity, it's good just to see if you can use that opportunity. I mean, at the moment, the high street, we've got things on there. I don't know. I generally don't know what. I think it's a case of go away and again respond.
So I was going to say, well, surely that's what we could bid to use the money for, is to develop a plan, because it's not going to be enough. It's going to be a drop in the ocean for the actual building.
But, 200 grand from there pays your 150 grand for your surveys.
Yeah,
you'll get 200 grand.
No, but the 2 grand we might get might at least help us.
We've got to be ambitious.
Yeah.
Will it help with because the thing that Brian's in people that Brian's in contact with, they can do the visual thing. That could actually go towards that, couldn't it? So I think that's what you're sort of saying, isn't it, Kel? That sort of development. David?
Yes, yes, just the point, if you want to go ahead and I did want to lose a prime day after a mini roundabout, actually, you know. each of those would have to be technically assessed, and that is not cheap. So I think you're talking about a lot more than 2,000 if you want an assessment of the whole project.
Agreed.
Yes,
Yeah, and all those ideas were just
Yes.
from the group at the time who suggested X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
and all that. So yes, it's very technically complex.
Yes.
So should we do an
This
application?
feedback, let's send an email out and get a response, try and get a response within 2 weeks.
Yes, the deadline, the first deadline I think is the 10th of November for the first batch of minutes.
That is 2 weeks, literally.
Yes.
Yeah, well, 3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so let's see. We'll go a week. See if anybody replies within a week. With an idea.
Okay.
Good.
Is there a kind of equivalent of a pre-app meeting that we could have with county transport?
Yes.
You know, because if they look at this and say, no way, it's never going to happen,
Yeah,
we may as well stop.
I think that would be very sensible, actually, yes.
There's no reason why we can't invite county highways up to a meeting.
I mean, there are certain technical issues that occur to me, particularly access to portability names from a 4-arm mini roundabout, which I think could create major difficulties. And also there's a safety issue. I did run through the accident record, and unfortunately our only single fatal accident in 7 years was actually on our existing mini roundabout.
Yeah, or the one up by Arbury as well, the Dutch one.
Well,
No, we're talking about
it's
within the village.
Yes.
So we have, I suppose we don't really have near misses.
We have, well, we have, they're classified as slight, serious and fatal. There were 7 minor incidents, 4 serious and 1 fatal. And that was since January 2017 to June 2024. I think some of the slight ones were connected with a single traffic flow outside them. But you know,
It's also the schools, isn't it?
well, yes. So, yeah.
I don't think highways offer a pre-app service. Planning do, but highways don't.
Well, we can make inquiries and ask one of them along.
James Stringer, I think, actually lives in the village. He's one of the highways guys,
Okay,
and quite useful.
Paul, get hand up.
Yeah, are we able to invite anybody from local business? I'm thinking about things like
You've been inviting them.
sponsorship and naming
I'll
rights.
tell you what, we'll give you that task.
Oh, great. You just told me to talk.
By the
yeah,
next
well,
meeting, I want at least a dozen local businesses here.
If I'm allowed to use my email address, I will.
What email address?
If I'm allowed to use my parish council email address for that purpose, I'm happy to do it.
Why wouldn't you be?
Because it's potentially a commercial application of a .gov.uk address. If I've given proper authorisation to do an outreach for what is ostensibly a commercial purpose, I'm happy to do it.
Not commercial.
Oh, that's all right then.
That's all right. Parish council.
That's all right then. I'll write a nice email and I'll start sending them out. I'm happy to do it.
There you go, got yourself a job. Well done.
Somebody had to employ me.
Was there everybody else I missed?
No,
David?
and it's trying myself late into this. I know there is a group looking at this, but if it's genuinely going to move forward, is it not going to need a target, much like we've just talked about for setting up for Linton Way? Isn't there going to need to be a group for this that is then just going to, so meetings are just going to need to discuss this and move that forward? And then you might get businesses along to talk just about that, but they're not going to come to something like this.
No.
And it strikes me that that group needs to be firmer and more committed with its plans when it comes to the group,
100%.
for it to ever really stand a chance of moving forward. Otherwise, it's just a discussion.
I think the problem is at the moment, nothing's set in stone, so there's nothing we can actually ask the businesses to comment on. I think businesses don't want to do our work for us. They want to have like 3 designs where they can go, this is terrible because of this, this is nice because of this, we like this one.
Yeah.
I think we've started... It's tricky, isn't it? Because we walked around the high street and went, what would we like to improve? And that's what this is, like lots of ideas put down. And then everyone was asked for their feedback. I don't think, has it been collated, the feedback? I don't know who I responded to. I can't remember who I responded to.
Yours, Patrick, was supposed to be supplying to you, weren't they?
Yes.
Oh,
But I wasn't tasked with doing anything with.
No, you wasn't, no.
It's just feedback. So, but you're thinking of collating the.
Well,
feedback.
if everyone thinks something's a terrible idea, then we need to remove it.
Yes.
And if everyone thinks it's a good idea, then we need
Yes.
to balance it up
Yes.
so that we can.
But that could be a task for the task force that David, you're mentioning.
Yeah, and I mean, also, I don't know when the cost of something like this starts to go in an equation, but it's again looking at something and say, well, it's a nice idea, but if it's a £5 million cost, it's a nice idea you're never going to have.
Yeah.
So I don't know at what stage that task group and whether how feasible it is to try and obtain very rough approximations of cost.
Oh, no, I think one of the big issues that we had was Brian approached a company that would do a, what's it called, generic overview of the whole high street. Unfortunately, the company went under or something, didn't it? Or they disappeared. Brian managed to get his money back, but they did disappear.
So that was just for drawings and
Yes, it
designs,
was,
that wasn't
yes,
for
yes,
actually
yes.
doing what David suggested,
Yes.
costing up.
But without the designs, we can't do the costing up. That's the problem that I
Sure,
think.
but we've got these rough drawings based on everything that's been suggested. I think Debbie's right. If we get feedback, we finalise what our ideal shopping list would be. We talk to county about it, and they say well, we definitely wouldn't do that, or we'd be roughly supportive. County are going to have a good feel for how much it would cost, and if they then say well yeah, it's 5 million or 1 million or whatever, then we at least have something to start thinking about in terms of where we can get funding from.
I mean, okay, so the only thing I was suggesting is to do that and speed that along again is to set up a task and finish group, David said, for the high street. Now,
But could we repurpose, sorry to interrupt, I was just
No,
going to
no,
say,
fine.
could we repurpose this group to do it? Because actually, the only things that we've got on the table are the Linton Way Pavilion, the skate park and this project.
I'm happy with
So
that, yeah.
we end up with Masterplan not having anything to do, so we may as well make this one really focus on the high street.
Okay,
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
that's fine, great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, so we'll move forward with that. Patrick?
We'll call this the high street meeting. Yeah, sorry.
But should we then have agree a date for a meeting
Yeah.
soon, where it's the only item on the agenda is high street?
Yeah, absolutely, that's what we will do. And we'll thrash everything, we'll bring all the plans in, we'll thrash it all out, and we'll get it all sorted out. Debs?
I was going to volunteer to read through everyone's emails and put a summary together. But if we want to sit down and thrash through it instead.
We'll do that in advance of the meeting.
Yeah, I think if people have given written feedback, it seems silly to get them to repeat it.
Okay, well, if
if
everyone can dig out their emails and just forward them to my email address.
Alright. No trouble.
Or review what you've already written and just chuck it over, and then I'll put a summary and just send it out. If you can do it can you give me if you send it within the week, and then I'll try and get it out within a fortnight, and then hopefully that's enough time we can read it before the next meeting.
Okay.
Going back to applying for grants, I'm just wondering what the cost would be of having a proper large-scale survey done of the high street. Because at the moment we're working with ordnance survey maps which are not
Can't Colin do it? Can't Colin do it with his drone?
Sorry?
Can't Colin do it with his drone?
No.
Unfortunately, Colin's not available.
No, it needs to be done properly with through all the lines and so on.
Well, shall we try and see if we could get some quotes for that?
It might be worthwhile, yes, yeah. Because until we do that, taking the mini roundabouts again, there are size constraints on those, and I'm not convinced that all the sites we've chosen along there.
Yeah.
Because I can't comment without having that detailed survey.
Obviously, when I say we, I mean...
It was the editorial we
Mark's sitting over there, grinning. He can, I'm sure he'd love to be part of it.
Welcome, yes.
One other comment I'd like to make is we've got lots of boxes of traffic light controls and stuff on the pavement that we haven't really, isn't on this plan, or because one thing when we were looking around I was like, we've got this random box here, what does it do, why is it there? We've got a load of these around the high street that are kind of creating, not choke points, but they're just there.
Do you mean like telecom boxes or
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
Street I mean, I think there probably are telecom boxes.
We can't move those.
Can't move those.
We need to be aware
They've got to
of
say
them.
we can work round them.
Yeah, we need to be aware of them before we put a bus stop over it or something
Well,
like
yes,
that.
yes.
Well, someone should have a services design for the high street. That should get updated every time you add that. So if you know what's in the ground or under it, then you can avoid any.
Well, they do it in London, they put red lines down the road, so you're not allowed to do
I
that.
think the key word was should.
Yeah, but it might have happened, the resurfacing's not that long ago. You wonder whether they might have done that survey before they did the resurfacing.
Well,
Who knows?
yes, yeah.
I mean, how current it is debatable, but there should be some sort of existing services plan.
County would have that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, they
County would have that in the
can.
services plan.
What happens if you go to county and they say you can only use living away 4 days a week?
Is there
Right.
anyone who can contact them to get it?
I think we need to get Brian involved in all of this because he'll be able to tell us the people to talk to, I think, even if...
I know the easiest one to contact at county is Clark,
Yeah.
Jonathan Clark. He's the main man.
But as they kept changing contractors and things, then they're not...
Yeah.
They don't have that anymore.
Well, I mean, it may be that such an accurate survey exists in an archive somewhere, but,
But then, if it's in an archive, there's probably lots of out-of-date things about it.
well,
that
maybe,
never read
yes,
some
yes,
news,
yes,
but
yes, yeah.
lots of other things happen.
Isn't there supposed to be something coming in soon, like the services? I wasn't listening properly to the radio. But
Oh, right. Well, that may well be about making services collaborate, but there probably isn't anything in there.
The main thing they was working on is, and Kira's just right, to get the services to work together so that you're not getting the gas board come along, then the water board, then the electricity board, they all come and do it in one hit. Or the other thing as well is what they were, and it's a nightmare, is for the services to let the highways know when they're going to be replacing stuff. So highways doesn't go and replace them, put a new road service down, but the services to come around in 6 months' time and pick back up. Again, very hard work, having been there, and try and get them to understand that. Okay, right, so I think matters for the next meeting, we've pretty much got those. It's Salton High Street, and that's that. Right, so for the High Street meeting, shall we give it, how are we now? November, December, January?
January.
Yeah. Because in November we have F&GPs
Yes, yeah.
for precepts, and December is December 10th, but early January would be a good thing.
So we,
On one of the Tuesdays we don't have a meeting, 7th maybe?
go for it. That's for the 7th.
7th or 21st? 7th would be better.
7th,
The first deadline for the funding is the 10th of November, which
Yeah.
is,
But I think we can make an application on the basis of wanting something towards developing the plans for the High Street.
Well, I think, yeah.
we do an application, someone does an application before our next meeting.
Yes,
Yeah.
So that's fine, okay.
I think.
Patrick.
I was going to say, who's doing the
We
application?
get to decide what we want to apply for.
We'll have a look at the application and we'll see what we can.
Can you only make one application? Because you've got a couple of schemes or a couple of projects on the table. Can you make an application per project?
I can't see the reason why not. Then they can actually choose which project that you want to use and they want to support. But on the top of my head, can't think of a reason why you couldn't do that. But so, Paul.
Yeah, I'd have thought, just over 2 weeks from now, we've got bonfire night,
Yeah.
which is around the same time, obviously, as Remembrance Sunday.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be
Week
too...
before.
Sorry?
Basically the week before, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the dates. What I'm saying is it too late or too much aggro to knock out some leaflets that we could hand out as part of the community survey on Lincoln Way? We could be handing them out when half the village is up the hill.
It's probably too late to get that together.
Is it worth asking Lorraine if she could do something?
Short period. It's very difficult to get the leaflets and having them agreed and proofread and then printed.
I think we were going to try and appoint a company to do the consultation,
Yeah.
so that they could get
No, it's just a
It's a
thought.
really good idea.
It's a good thought.
The timescale just not.
We're going to have 3,000 people up the top of the hill that they could potentially...
Yeah.
Well,
There's no reason why we couldn't put banners up there.
That's a good idea. Just with a point of reference.
it's difficult to say
What we're going to put.
what we're going to put up there, because we kind of don't want anything we do will start to look definite, and at the moment we're in a
Yes.
indefinite.
No, you just Linton Way survey, email us your ideas, or something even shorter than that.
Let's think about it.
I think a few months ago there was a couple of options on the table. There was a local architectural practice, KWA, give us a
Yeah.
proposal for them to manage that process, the community engagement. Well, to sit with you guys to decide what it is that you wanted, what questions you wanted to ask, basically, to inform the answers that you wanted to receive, basically. And then for them to manage that process, there was an alternative idea floated where someone like the CAMS FA, who are quite experienced in that community engagement, could perhaps provide a no-cost alternative, but it would probably mean that they would sit in amongst you guys and help you design a questionnaire, but then you would then sort of, distribute
Pull out.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a couple of options there already. I mean, I can dig them out and just sort of recirculate that.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so I think we've covered some of that ground already. Yeah.
But yeah, because sometimes it's really good to be reminded and refreshed about what's what we have had on the table before.
Yeah.
Especially when the other thing as well is, like I said at the beginning, we have now got new members on the council and on the committee that wouldn't be aware.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always a good idea. Failing that, so matters for the next meeting we've had to discuss the dates for the next meeting. We said the 7th of January. Yeah.
What about the task and finish meet?
I'm going to go away and think about the task and finish at the moment, but I'm hoping to have that before January, so we get things up and running.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
You
probably November we've got tasks, we've got F&G
But
poo,
it
so
doesn't
I'm
necessarily
probably
have to be a
thinking
Tuesday, does it?
I was going to say, does it have to be
Doesn't
an
have to be
evening or a
Tuesday.
day, or is it?
Well, let's have a think.
Let's think about it, yeah, because obviously the sooner we have it, the quicker we can get things moving. Okay, if there's anything else that anybody wants to say, Patrick?
Would it be possible to give some indication of budget for Linton Way I'm referring to?
At the moment, no, because we're still, as much as we've got a sort of confirmation regarding some of the money coming in from S106. I don't think it's actually been official yet, has it?
Well, but the amounts are out there.
The amounts, you can just go through our finances.
We need to pull it together. We haven't got enough to pay for it entirely out of S106.
Right. Okay.
So we're going to be, but the Parish Council has the ability to borrow money at good rates.
Favourable rates. Yeah.
So we're going to be borrowing some. It's just a question of how much and.
What other ones we get?
We actually, there's a third source. We have been saving money for the last 5 or 6 years. So there's some money in the reserves. So off the top of my head, it's maybe 600,000 or so that we could lay our hands on instantly, and the possibility to borrow given. But we're still paying off the public works loan for here and for Spices.
Right.
I think The thing about it is, and it was mentioned to me by someone else, so it isn't my thought. I think that sometimes the approach we have to develop is a different approach, and that is what's our budget and what can we get for that budget.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Yeah. You don't know what your budget is.
Yeah.
That's what I said. It was somebody else's idea,
Yeah. But,
not mine.
but
I
I think
didn't make that
sometimes-
perfectly clear. But yeah.
But I was going to say, given the public loan thing is basically, you know, how much interest we can afford because it's fixed. I think to do it that way round, to say we've got a budget, what can we get for it, can mean that you end up with cut corners, and you think, well, actually, particularly when you're talking about the difference in scale, the relative difference in scale between the minimum project and the maximum project.
Yes.
I think we shouldn't ignore the possibility of the maximum projects.
No, I'm not saying that, but I think there will come a point when we'll look at the budgets and we'll go, right, that's, we'll come to a definitive point.
Yeah,
at
because,
some point.
you know, I haven't got the sums, but, you know, when we look at, when we get the quotes for the public loan, it will be, you know, X thousand on the precept, and then we'll say, well, that means divided by the number of council taxpayers, you know, we're talking about X pounds extra on the precept to pay for it, and that X is going to be bigger or smaller the more we borrow, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you get a slice of the community infrastructure levy or whatever, does that come your way?
I don't know, there may be other things. The SIL is the alternative to S106,
Yes, right.
so
Yeah, that's gone, that's better.
Yes, yes.
South Cants didn't take part in it. So we've got all of the, unless there's another development that comes up, but I would have thought that's relatively unlikely given there's no more allocated sites and that kind of stuff. So we've basically got the S106 we're going to get, but there may be other funding, particularly given the sports facilities and how much funding we were able to get for Mill Lane and obviously for Spices in the old days. You know, we've got to. The main reason for doing this is because the facilities for the sports clubs are not good enough at the moment, and so you know there may be some. We can get some money from the sports.
Right, Debs and then David.
So one thing I'd like us to think about is also in the structure is whether it's worth spending extra money at the front that will cost, so it will mean less money in the long term. So if we build a more firmly insulating building, okay, it's going to cost us a bit more when it's being built, but it's going to cost us a lot less gas, electricity, whatever in the future. So
I think the thing is, Debs, is when we do come up with the design, again, we're boiled down to costs. But I think we've got I think we're going to be slightly held to ransom with climate change and the processes of that. So the planning people, for starters, if it doesn't meet certain requirements now, they will just say, no, you have to have these requirements in there to make sure that it is eco-friendly.
So as Debbie said, we need to work out, sorry David, I was just going to say, do we look at going above and beyond those in order to make future savings?
That's really what I was going to endorse both what people have said before. I think one of the major first early jobs of the Task and Finish group is to look at our funding sources as well, isn't it? You know, so the FA obviously, other sports bodies, South Cans were obviously contributing to Spices, didn't they? And try and enlarge that budget so we can get the best possible building that we can get. And I think
absolutely,
with the environmental side of it now, I think we're looking for civic pride as well, of a good building, and one of those ways of getting that these days is to produce a good building, an environmentally good building.
Yeah, absolutely. David?
Just to make the point that there is funding we should be able to tap into solar panels, because this is absolutely ideally situated. I mean, you could have masses of south-facing roof, and that is a complete no-brainer to my mind.
Dave made a really, really good point, something I was thinking of as well. And the key thing is, if we get Linton Way up and running, one of the key things for Linton Way is to take the slack off Spices and take the slack off Mill Lane as well. And we've got award-winning county level cricket teams, football teams, or whatever. And is there an opportunity, touching on what David said, if we get Linton Way up and running, I don't know what the existing designation is of those existing pavilions. But is there a way that possibly, for example, Spice's Pavilion could get redesignated as a dedicated sports facility X, Y, Z awards and get extra funding by some of those
It's really dedicated, and it's already not known as Spice's is a sports facility, which is one of the reasons why there's so many restrictions on it.
Yeah.
Whereas all the other areas are recreational.
Well, that's what I thought. I wouldn't make the assumption though.
So when it comes to taking up the slack, what you're on about is you're talking about a pavilion. You're not talking about the pitches that are used that would take up that slack.
So what I'm saying, can we make it a dedicated sports pavilion, or one, even get rid of a pavilion? And is there a way on the back of that to unlock extra funding for the cricket club or anybody else?
No.
All right, Liz.
Well, we should think about it, you know, but as Kev says, this is not going to increase the capacity for the activities that can take place on there, because it's at capacity at the moment and we're not magicking up another pitch or anything.
No, I hear that.
So, you know, because we're going to be taking away some space and freeing up others. But
I mean, I think we'd also want it to be available as a general community facility.
That's what's also on the agenda.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, there may, I mean, this is I think there may be the opportunity to increase the amount of sport played there, because obviously if we make the Linton Way Pavilion far more attractive to use, so some of the people who are hiring the village college, or the girls' football, etc., I think they play on a Sunday, might say, well, look, we'll come to Linton Way because it's a better facility. I accept on Saturdays it's used out anyway, but then there may be margin.
yeah, there may be some.
At the end of the day, we don't want any fakes on your cricket pitch. That's the bottom line of it. No, I'm being serious.
Right, Patrick, then
No, just say, Katie Critchley, you know her, don't you? From
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She should be able to give you a fairly good indication of how much funding and your likelihood of getting it, you know, from a footballing point of view, through the foundation.
Okay, so we've got lots of thoughts, lots of things to get on with. With that, I will call it an evening, and thank you all very much for your input. I will get back to you regarding the task and finish group for Linton Way. We've basically got the agenda items for the next meeting today, but we will rename it the Highway. I think the High Street.
High Street, yeah. So you're pretty much just discussing the High Street,
yeah.
and then task and finish.
Thank you all very much. And I'm now off to Stansted.
The funding,